All right. Welcome to week 13, I guess. Week 13. So, this is the week coming back from our little mini Thanksgiving break. This week is going to be also not a normal week because Friday you have no school because it is grade day. It's the end of the 6 weeks already. I know it's weird, it's crazy, but you have no school on Friday. So, I will see all of my classes twice this week. Although Wednesday is still a late start day, just so you know. Okay, so this week we are rounding the corner to finishing Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. We are going to finish chapter 16 and start getting some footing on chapter 18. I've told you that chapter 18 is the biggest chapter. It takes about an hour and a half to read as a whole. So we're going to break that up between this week and next week. And we're going to do another grammar lesson. We already talked about commas in the sense that we've talked about the Oxford comma, but we haven't talked about commas in general. Probably should have done that in the reverse order that we have done it. But we're going to be talking about that. And then we are going to work on resume writing because I really don't think that in school you're ever really taught that. Like maybe you are, but I've asked a few people, my husband included, who went to West, if he remembers ever being taught in school how to write a resume for applying for a job. And he said no. And a lot of other people have said no. So if this is not new to you, if you already maybe have a job or you've done this before, I'm so sorry, but we're going to do it again. It's not going to be super intensive and exhausting. It'll probably just take one day, but we're going to take a look at it. And I'll give you some tips because I have had several jobs and I can tell you what works and what doesn't work. And then we're going to have first chapter Friday. And as a reminder, for those of you that are pursuing honors credit, we have chapter 17 is going to be just an honors credit assignment. So if that's you, please make sure you read it and then follow the instructions for it, which I will show you on here. So to start off, we're going to do a warm-up prompt. You're going to tell me, how was your Thanksgiving break? I'm curious to know. And then, of course, because we're still coming off Thanksgiving and I didn't necessarily do this last week, but I want you to tell me something that you're grateful for and tell me why. Okay, so if you go into Canvas, you should see in this week the honors option. So if you're not doing honors, you can tune this part out. But for this option assignment, you need to read the whole chapter and then you need to complete the following. You need to, number one, in a minimum of 2 paragraphs, summarize the chapter. What happens? Why does Trevor go to jail? And then tell me, what realization does he have during this experience? And you need to use textual evidence to support your summary. So we're going to practice doing that. We're going to practice not plagiarizing and giving credit to our author, Trevor. So you're going to use actual quotes or you're going to paraphrase and cite that in your response. And then on page 243, Patricia says, everything I have ever done, I've done from a place of love. If I don't punish you, the world will punish you even worse. The world doesn't love you, which of course is the name of the chapter. So I want you to just share your thoughts about this quote. What do you think? Do you agree with her in regards to her outlook on life? And try to make any personal connections that you can. So that is the honors option assignment. It's in Canvas and it's due on December 10th. So we also are going to review the last 2 of our new Writers Workshop notes. These are the ones that we didn't go over together as a class. So I want you to click on either one. And I'm not going to review it in this video, but I want you to review it yourself. So if you have questions about that, please let me know. So we need to finish chapter 16. We're almost done with it. We have like just a few pages left. We're talking about crime. We're talking about empathy and how our choices impact other people. A lot of times we don't realize the things that we do. More often than not, every single choice that you make is going to impact more than just you. It's going to impact the people around you. And so we're going to get a real interesting example that Trevor's going to explain in terms of his kind of life of crime at this age. So go ahead and pause this video and finish reading chapter 16. So on page 219, he says, the hood was strangely comforting, but comfort can also be dangerous. Comfort provides a floor, but also a ceiling. I want you to explain what Trevor means in this quote because he's kind of using some figurative language, and I want you to use textual evidence to support your thoughts. So hint, look at page 218 and 219 and tell me, what is he saying when he's talking about this floor and a ceiling in terms of comfort and danger? So give me your best shot on that. The last question for chapter 16 on page 221, he says, in society, we do horrible things to one another because we don't see the person it affects. We don't see their face. We don't see them as people. I want you to explain what Trevor means in this quote, and I want you to use textual evidence to support your thoughts. So look at those pages and give me some thoughts on that on your slide. Okay, so you are going to watch the TED Ed video, how to use a comma, and then you're going to respond to these questions. What three characters do we need to think about when considering whether or not we need to use a comma? And when should you use a comma? When is it appropriate to do that? So go ahead, pause this video, and take a look at this one. Okay, so the characters that we need to consider are conjunctions. These are represented by this acronym of fanboys: for, and, nor, but, so, and yet. These are words that bring together two clauses, two sentences. Subordinates are words that also link clauses, but they're dependent specifically and independent. So a clause, a sentence that can stand on its own, and one that can't. These would be examples like although, because, before, however, unless, even though. So when you're looking at using subordinates are rarely ever do you need to use a comma. There are certain circumstances where you will, but most often you won't. So here's an example. Even though Bartholomew, or I think that's how you say his name, Bartholomew, loves to sing, he never sings in front of others. So we know, just like with physics, with science and the world, how it works, things, if you're trying to keep something balanced, it's best to make sure that the weight is evenly distributed. So you can think about that rule in terms of grammar, honestly. So that usually means that the comma is going to go somewhere in the middle. In this circumstance with subordinates, the comma goes after the first complete thought. So even though Bartholomew loves to sing, he never sings in front of others. So that is roughly in the middle. When we're looking at fanboys, at conjunctions, you're going to see two sentences, two complete sentences. And when you have a conjunction involved, using commas is a little bit more relaxed, meaning you don't necessarily, I guess you would use it more frequently than you would with a subordinate, as an example. So, but it depends on the type of sentences. So with this example, there's a complete sentence and a fragment sentence. A fragment sentence means it's not whole, it's incomplete, it's just a part of it. And adding a comma doesn't really make sense because it's not too much information. Basically, the more complete sentences you find, the more information, the more likely it is that you'll need a comma, because if there's just more content, more to talk about, you're going to need something to clear up that confusion. So the activity that I have planned for this, I have feedback that you all want some like hands-on kind of kinesthetic activities to help with grammar. So if you are watching this and you were absent the day that we did this, you can't necessarily do it, but you can watch as I review the answers. So you're going to get cutouts of some example sentences, and you need to decide first, does it need a comma? And if it does, where does it go? So the example number 1, the answer is right after college. Maddie decided she wanted to go to Arizona for college, but it took her a long time to make her decision. So the comma would go right there. Example number 2, even though she lives in Oregon, Mrs. Albritton grew up watching the Lakers because her dad is from LA and loves Kobe. Number 3, Jim wanted to spend his day pranking Dwight or talking to Pam. In this case, we have a conjunction being used, the word or, and it is a complete sentence and a fragment sentence. So there's not a need to have a comma. Even though it rains consistently for 9 months out of the year, true Oregonians never use umbrellas. After being co-workers for a year, Jonathan knows Ashley scares easy, so he decided it would be funny to scare her on a weekly basis by jumping out from around the corner. This is a true story. I had a coworker who would do this to me all the time. Anyway, the comma goes right here. And number 6, she hated running lines and conditioning drills. We're using a coordinating conjunction, one of the fanboys, the word and, so we do not need a comma. Okay, so as a reminder, at this point in the week, if you have not submitted a If you have not submitted a interview essay, please make sure that you do that because we're going to use it next week. Okay, so this video, Trevor is talking about his love for computers and how it felt like magic when he first discovered it. So I want you to pause this video and watch this video from Trevor. He's being interviewed by Jimmy Kimmel, and I want you, after watching it, to describe something that you're passionate about. It could be like a hobby, it could be something that you love learning about, it could be a sport, whatever it is. And I want you to describe your earliest memory of it and tell me kind of like how you fell in love with it or how you became so passionate about it. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so we are starting chapter 18, the best chapter of the book, and it's the longest for sure. So I want you to pause this video and start reading. And when you get to page 250, I want you to pause and answer this question. What was Abel like when Trevor and Patricia first met him? And how does Trevor describe his personality? How does he kind of start to change? And what does Trevor start to think about Abel as the years go by? So you're going to write your response right here. Chapter 18. Again, what happened when they visited Abel's family for Christmas? How did Patricia respond to the difference in cultural expectations when it came to gender? Did Patricia have any other option than to go back home with Abel after the kitchen fire incident? Why or why not? So with this question, you're going to answer it after you reach page 257. Okay, so we are going to start looking at resume writing. I tried to think about skills that you don't necessarily typically learn in school, but would be really helpful. And resume writing is something that I feel like would fall into the category of language arts because it's writing. And it's something that you all need to know how to do because in order to live and survive in this world, you have to have a job and you have to work. So that requires submitting a resume when you apply for a job. Because something that you might know already, or maybe you have yet to discover, when you're applying for a job, not all jobs and positions and companies have applications that you fill out, but they're all going to ask you for a resume. So no matter what, you have to have a resume. So I want you to brainstorm in your mind, if you're watching this video and you're not in class, a list of things that you think should be on a resume. What are the things that you should be seeing when you look at a resume? What things are included? And then I want you to know that when I was in high school, I took it wasn't computer programming, it was like a graphic design class. But anyway, my teacher in that class taught us about resumes and how to apply for jobs. And maybe I misunderstood him, but at the time I thought there was only one correct way to create a resume, and that if you didn't do it in that format, you wouldn't get the job. But that's not true. So the secret to a perfect resume is that there is no such thing as a perfect resume. There's just certain things that you need to make sure you do. And I have come up with 3 that I think for sure you need to follow. 1, you need to be short but sweet, not too wordy, and your resume should only be 1 page. If you are super impressive and you have lots to say, that's awesome. But when you think about people that are trying to hire new hires, new employees, they don't necessarily have time to sit through 5 pages of a resume for every single person that applies. So that's why it needs to be short but sweet. 1 page only, not even back to back, just 1 page. And making sure that you're not being too wordy or too lengthy in the words that you're using. The second thing that you need to have is vital information only. So think about writing to your audience. If you are applying to a position where you need, if you're applying to a position where you need to like show that you're certified in something, for example, maybe you're applying to be a lifeguard at a gym over the summer and you need to like show them that you're certified in CPR. You need to show them the things that they're looking for in the position that you're applying for. You don't necessarily need to talk about the fact that you volunteered at a organization that has nothing to do with that world of lifeguard, CPR, health, that sort of thing, if that makes sense. I'll show you an example when it comes to my resume that I'm going to show you. And then the third thing is grammar. You need to make sure that you are spell checking. You need to make sure that you don't have run-on sentences. Professionalism really matters, and it's going to shine through in grammar. If you're using acronyms like IDK or like texting acronyms, or you're not capitalizing things when they should be, proper nouns, that sort of thing, it's not going to look super professional. It's going to look like you just kind of threw together your resume in 5 minutes. So let's take a look at an example. This is linked in the slides, but it's also on Canvas. So if you click on this, you should open up this Google Doc. And this is going to show you my example. I took away some of my personal information so that you can't text me or email my personal email, but this is where that'll go. So if you notice at the top, you have your name. All the vital contact information that they're going to need is at the top: your name, your address, your phone number, and your email. And then as you scroll down, you can see I've got a profile, which just basically means this is like what I'm looking for in the job that I'm applying to. I have my education background, the degrees that I have. I have any experience related to the position that I'm applying for. So this is the resume that I used when I applied to be a teacher at West. And you can see the past jobs that I've had. You can see the skills and training. Everything is organized. I have dates. So this is a good example, I think, to look at. But I want you to know something. Let's go back to our slides. Again, there's no such thing as a perfect resume. So if you were to apply for a job and you made a resume that looked a little bit different from mine, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get the job. It just means that you need to follow these things. You need to make sure that these things are incorporated into your resume. So if you're thinking, oh, wow, that's a lot. How do I even get started? You can use this as a template if you want to, or you can even go on Google. Google literally has templates for a lot of different things. So if you go onto your Google Drive and you start to open up a Google Doc, instead of just clicking Google Doc and opening up a blank document, if you go over to the arrow and you click from a template, they will give you templates of resumes that you can look at. There's different formats. You can see some of it has color, some of it doesn't. To be honest, I don't think that employers like, oh my gosh, this person used color and this person didn't. I don't think they're really looking at that. What they want is they want the information and they want it fast. They want to know, is this person, like, what's the word? Is this person applicable? Like, do they have experience? Do they know what they're doing? Are they somebody that would be a good fit for this job? Because a single glance at a resume is going to tell this person that's hiring, should I call this person? Should I ask them to come in for an interview? And that's obviously what you want. You want an interview for the job. So I want you to take a few minutes and explore the templates if you want, or take a look at my example that I showed you. And I want you to start making your own resume. If you're thinking, Miss Albritton, I already have a job and I've already made a resume, that's awesome. I want you to pull it up, look at it, maybe do some comparing and see how it's different from the resume templates that you're seeing. And then eventually you're going to submit this to me. So I'll probably have it due. I haven't said it yet, but I'll probably have it due for next week on the following Monday. But either way, you're going to submit a resume to me, and then I'm going to give you some feedback as to how to improve it or make it better. So make sure you do that. The very last thing for this week is First Chapter Friday. This week we have The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And this is a cool version because it is the graphic novel version. So I do have a copy of the regular version, but graphic novels are becoming something that's very much on the move, on the rise. That's the word. On the rise. Lots of people love them. If you're a visual learner, graphic novels are a great option, and this copy is the book, but in a graphic novel version. So I'm not going to like read the first chapter to you, but I want you to take a look at it, and if you're interested in borrowing it, let me know. That is all that I have for week 13, so if you have any questions, please let me know.